If you want to talk about stress, I don't think there's any more stressful situation than having no money left on your meal card and you have 3 weeks left of the semester. This time of year is really interesting because there's a lot of transitions, right? We have just a couple more weeks of school. If not, school is pretty much already over, maybe some final exams. And our seniors are headed off to college. That is a pivotal point in a child's life because it's a real, first of all, there's a huge transition from being a child to actually technically being an adult. And, I understand many students won't be attending college, but, I think the more of the higher majority of students, at least in the U.S., are, going to some type of undergraduate degree or community college or something. And when we talk about mental health and we talk about stress, this can be a huge stressor in a student's life. And before we get into some of the things that I would suggest easing that transition, I think it's good to understand the differences between high school and college. It's a tremendous, a ton of different differences, but I think three main ones that stick out. One is the autonomy that they have as a college student. This is huge because now students are really, it's up to them. It's up to them to have positive relationships. It's up to them to have positive time management skills. It's up to them to figure out when a project is due and how long that lead time will take them. They get to do what they want, when they want, how they want. And for some, that is a huge issue because they have not practiced that at all. Everything has been handed to them on a platter saying, this is when you do this is when you do that. You have, this many days until blah, blah, like whatever it is. That level of freedom and autonomy sometimes is a huge issue for college students. Secondly, they are now, as I mentioned, an adult. And something to think about is that they are now going to classes oftentimes with other adults, like other 40 and 50-year-olds who are doing, a career change and having to take some undergraduate courses. They are working much closer with their professors who are obviously, seasoned adults. And that is interesting because I remember when I was in college, this memory sticks out to me that is really interesting because at the time I was so delusional. I thought that I was so righteous, if you will, where we were having a meeting for a music educators conference thing or whatever with other undergrads, and we were having a meeting during lunchtime, and there was another professor who had a class right after that. And we usually get food and bagels and stuff for the meeting as a way to bribe the other students to come to the meeting and either listen to this, guest speaker or whatever it is. And I was so audacious not to have scheduled and done properly, where to have this food cleaned up and wrapped up and everybody out of the classroom in time for the next professor's class. And it was almost as if I was upset that the professor was upset. Like, well, this is our music educators meeting. This is way more important than your little class. That was the feeling I felt. It was disgusting and rude and terrible, but that's the audacity that I had, and that many college students don't understand that you're an adult now and you're working with other adults. Last but not least, I think is a culture shock. Oftentimes, a huge difference between high school and college is that when you're in high school, you're in your community, with your friends, with your other family members that look very similar to, family members throughout your community. And now all of a sudden you go to a university where you've got people obviously coming from all different states across the country, and you've got people coming from other countries too. And that can be also a little bit jarring because you realize that there's a whole big world out there, that almost as if like you weren't even prepared to deal with this. And in a way, you might feel left behind because it's like, whoa, I didn't even realize all this stuff was happening. All these other people out there did things this way and ate this way and said these things. Like, oh my God, like I've got a lot of catching up to do. And those, I think, are a couple of things that we really need to think about when it comes to working with our students when they make that transition, these three big differences. So today we're going to talk about three simple but very important things that I think students need to master when it comes to making that transition as easy as possible when they go from high school to college. Number one, as I kind of alluded to with our differences, is that time management is a must. Time management is huge because now it's no longer 7:30 to 2:30 or whatever, Monday through Friday. It's courses that can start at 8 o'clock in the morning. It's courses that could start at 8 o'clock at night. It's 45-minute Monday, Wednesday, Friday sessions. It's a 3-hour-long lecture on Thursday. There's a ton of different schedules. Not only that, it's their job to make their schedules. It's their job to pick their classes. And that's a whole process, and I think there's a lot to be said for that. There is the time management of working with your roommate, like being able to set a schedule of when they're going to be doing this, when they need time alone with their significant other, just normal college things that is just really, really sometimes tricky that first semester. Not only that, time management, of course, when to do things, but how to actually get things done. How long do you actually need to prepare for your midterms? How long do you really need to prepare for your finals or write a 10-page paper? There's been many students that go to college who have, for me, I only wrote one 10-page paper in my whole high school career, and that was for my senior project, like this big project. A 10-page paper is like a joke in most universities. It's just like normal. That's like what you have to do every week. That's what you have to do. So understanding that process and learning how long it might take you to do certain things you've never done before is a challenge. So of course, we want to make sure we give ourselves some extra time, but I think the way to think about time management is a zero-sum game. And what I mean by that is a 24-hour picture. I think when you go to college and you are a freshman in college, what you should do is take your 24 hours every single day and fill it up as much as possible. And I know that sounds weird, but hear me out. You want to schedule every single minute of every single day. You're like, dude, that's insane. I can't work that much. I'm not talking about work. I'm talking about schedule the time that you're going to hang and watch a movie. Schedule the time you're going to hang out on the quad with your buddies. Schedule the time you are going to just go into town or whatever it is, right? Whatever you want to do. But if you schedule that, then okay, I'm reserving there. There'll be time later in the week or later that day to do those fun leisurely type of things. But right now, I have a 2-hour block that I told myself I'm going to go to the library and study. And I know exactly what I'm going to study, and I know exactly what I have to get done there. It's fine. And I think really quickly, within probably the first 2, 3, even 4 weeks, if you do that and take that approach, you're going to fail miserably because you're not going to know how long things are going to take and what new things are going to come your way randomly. You have to kind of see how this works and how the whole flow of your university and your dorm and everything kind of works. And I think that's important to fail because at least you now start figuring out, okay, every Wednesday they have this thing, in the afternoon in the quad, and there's like a bunch of tents and cool stuff happening. So I don't really want to schedule my study session there. I'm going to move that to Tuesday, whatever. But having a zero-based calendar, I think, is really, really important because if you don't, then what happens is you kind of say, all right, I have all this free time. Maybe I'll study, but we'll kind of see what happens. That's a no-go because later in the week you may not have any free time, and you've kind of wasted that free time, that things you needed to get done. So that's what I would suggest. And furthermore, when it comes to time management, I also think it's secondly important is energy management. This kind of falls into time management, but let's face it, many, or maybe a majority, or many, let's say, college students are gonna go party. That's what's gonna happen, whether you like it or not. And they have to figure out, like, okay, if I have a Friday morning class at 8 o'clock, if I go out Thursday, which is, a big night, I either have to have the willpower to leave at 12, or maybe I should just not go out Thursday, or maybe I should only go out every other Thursday. But I have to know that, because if that one Friday class is a once in a week class and you miss half of them because, you're sleeping in, well, then that's going to be a huge issue. It's just going to be. So you have to figure out, okay, well, maybe I just won't go out Thursdays, but, I'll reserve partying for Saturday. That's fine. It's really a big learning lesson your first semester in college. It's just a lot of students come home weathered and in rough shape because they're not thinking in the future. They're very what's the word I'm looking for? They are very their decisions that they're making are very immediate. I'm missing the word here. I'll think of it later, but they are impulsive. There we go. Wow. It's very impulsive because that's still, their brains are still finishing their development and they're still in that, somewhat impulsive phase. But they think if I don't go party now, it's going to be FOMO. I'm going to miss out. And it's just, everyone's going out right now. My whole floor is going out. It's hard. I get it. But that is the awareness that has to be there first before they go ahead and make some better schedules for themselves. Second suggestion that I would have to ease the transition into college would be not time management or energy management, but
I don't have to tell you, students today are way too stressed, overwhelmed, and anxious about their lives and their futures. This is why I do what I do. As a youth speaker, I teach students to step back from the situation, see the choices they have in front of them, make great decisions, and build positive patterns around this process. Whether it's substance abuse, bullying, or stress about their digital lives, the students I've worked with have had some great success. So I want to work with your students. I want to come down to your school and your event and actually teach your students the art and the science of making great decisions. So click the link below and schedule your call with me so I can learn a little bit more about what you're looking for in your next speaker.
But money management. Hear me out. If you want to talk about stress, I don't think there's any more stressful situation than having no money left on your meal card. And you have 3 weeks left of the semester. Like literally you become a person that's just like literally like on the streets, just like begging for extra points that somebody has on their meal card that they might have better managed throughout the semester. But I think money management and meal management is really, really important. This kind of comes into like, can we cook? Can we actually cook something in our dorms to try and save some money on our meal cards? Because again, I think the only focus should just be your meal card, because again, you don't want to having to beg and plead with your friends to let them borrow your some of your points so you can have a sandwich. So I think a really easy thing to do is focus on breakfasts and lunch, because let's face it, you're going to spend your money out late night, right? Fourth meals, you're going to need those. I get it. And you're going to probably also spend your money on dinners because, we're done with classes. Everybody's hanging out in the common area. You're just going to go get some dinner. I totally get that. But, and even lunch, I would start with breakfast because breakfast is fairly cheap, right? You could buy a box of cereal and last you for a week and just bang that out before you even leave your dorm. My wife was an awesome example of that. She would make for lunch she would cook her own pasta and throw some like baby spinach and cherry tomatoes and some feta. So it was and like some olive oil, whatever. It was a fairly healthy meal, and she saved a bunch of money, and she did that for her lunches. So little things like that, I think, will really, really help when it comes to your money management and, like I said, your meal management. And the last tip I would give to freshmen heading into their first semester of college is to join at least one type of club, activity, group, Greek life, whatever. Maybe Greek life saved to your sophomore year, because then you have to pledge, which is a whole nother thing I have no experience in. But for me, it was really easy because I was so invested in the music community. I was a music major, so my schedule was slammed packed with rehearsals and concerts and sectionals, that I didn't necessarily have to look for joining a club, because I didn't even have a second to breathe anyway. So I was always within all these people in close settings making music, which was awesome. But there are many students out there who do not have that opportunity, that are baked into their schedule. They just have their class list. And, when their schedule's done and their classes are over for the day, they just hang out their dorm. And if they don't necessarily really click with their roommate, it sometimes can be very hard to get started with some type of friend group, right? Some type of social situation. I remember, thank God I was a music major, because I remember those first couple of weeks were a little bit, a little weird, because I wasn't necessarily started with all my rehearsals yet. There were still ensembles that I was auditioning for. And I remember when we had our freshman orientation, we stayed over for, I think, maybe a night or a couple nights. And I remember meeting a small little group of people there. And we stayed in touch on Facebook. And we kind of met up once or twice once the semester started. But very quickly, they all fell in their friend group. I fell in my friend group. And we kind of split ways. But that's all I had to start with. So if I wasn't a music major, I would have had to join some type of club or activity or group to make friends and be a part of something outside of class. And it's just very easy to get sucked in, take your phone, just dig in, and just don't look up for the semester. And that is one of the huge issues we're dealing with when it comes to students' mental health. It's that their ability to hide from real life situations in this box. Because there is nothing like having a one-on-one conversation with somebody. No matter how advanced technology gets, no matter how amazing the virtual reality world will be one day, there is this tactical sense that won't be there. There's a smell that's missing. There's, the little nuances to the conversation. There's all of those things that are missing. So I think they should really try to find one group or activity. And what's really cool is that it's very easy to do. All of the clubs at universities are always putting flyers and setting up tables and promoting. So it's not hard to find these clubs and activities. It's just sometimes a little challenging to get outside of your comfort zone. I get it. You're in a brand new university, probably away from home, maybe feeling a little homesick. That's the number one thing I would suggest for a student to do. Join at least one club or group. So thank you so much. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. I hope you're able to take a couple things and help your veteran seniors ease that transition to now their much bigger fish pond, as they're a little small guppy trying to find their way in this new big world. If you like today's episode, then let me know by hitting like, hitting subscribe, and hitting the bell notification so you can be notified every time I release a new video. And I want to hear from you. Leave a comment below. Tell me about your transition, your first semester in college, and some of the things that you might have wanted to do a little bit differently, hindsight being 2020. If you like today's episode, then you'll probably also like this one right over here.